What's up, squad? It's Brandon from the Bantu Sun. Thank you so much for joining me today. So, is it just me, or does it seem as though Hamas might be getting the upper hand in this war with Israel? So hear me out on this. Have you seen any major leaders of Hamas captured and paraded, um, and basically led away to face Israeli justice? Does it seem as though any part of the Hamas leadership is under duress or about to surrender? In fact, I've seen just as many videos floating around of Hamas making weapons in underground bunkers and underground tunnels, and who know where these tunnels are and where this network is leads these various actors to. But it doesn't seem as though they're under duress. It doesn't seem as though they're on the cusp of breakdown. If anything, it seems as though Israeli forces have not scathed the Palestinian forces, at least not the Palestinian forces that attacked them and that horrible massacre that occurred. Now, in hindsight, and of course hindsight is 2020, I think maybe there was a more advantageous way that Israelis could have went about this. Maybe they could have worked with the PLO and try to sniff out these terrorists, the people that attacked them and attacked the innocent civilians at the festival, and worked with Palestine as sort of a new way of doing things, and how the PLO was not going to allow terrorists, or they weren't going to allow refuge for terrorists within Gaza, and they were going to work with Israeli as well. This would have been, I think, the beginnings or the premise for a future two-state solution. But what happened is Israel went into berserk mode, basically liquidating northern Gaza. Gaza being one of the most densely population centers on the planet. And of course, you see these pictures coming out of Gaza, and it looks like a city street alley. It's gravel. Israel has basically turned northern Gaza into a gravel pit. And this has come at great expense. When you look at the conversation today, from a purely historical point of view, one can say that Israel has just as much reason to exist in the region as any other country in the region. This land was, what happened was, from a historical point of view or perspective, was a partition of the Middle East, primarily under Site-Picos, but a partition under the Middle East. This involved Syria, this involved Jordan, this involved Israel, etc. But the Palestinians felt as though they got the short end of the stick in this partition of the Middle East. Now, this is a true argument that needs to be had as the Palestinian gripe against their land allocation where the Middle East was partitioned. But the narrative in the world is that there was a country of Palestine and that Israelis invaded it, conquered it, and set up shop there. And these images enforce this concept. So the conversation is not about how can two neighbors coincide with each other, but the conversation is it's hard to hear those logical conversations when you're seeing these horrible images come across your screen of bodies laying in pits, uh, children, life cut far too short. It's hard to hear these logical conversations. And now the argument is somebody has to stop Israel from carrying out what some would call genocide, just a complete liquidation of a population in a region. And I don't think that conversation, and it has turned world opinion. And from an advantage which Israel had, which would have gave them a moral high ground to work with the PLO to try to basically put a buffer region within the Gaza Strip to protect their population. And now they went berserk, and now the world is against them because as we speak on the eve of Christmas, planes are flying over, dropping bombs on northern Gaza. And this conversation, I mean, what does this lead to, really? Will these nations ever be able to coexist beyond this? What This is going to be the greatest recruitment ad ever for the future militants of Hamas. Do you think the Palestinians will ever have peace in their heart? In fact, this is forging the Palestinian identity even deeper as one being antithetical, mutually exclusive to the state of Israel. And that's why I think this is so counterproductive, because never again do I think, or at least not in the next few generations, do I think a two-state solution is possible because of this heavy-handedness from the Israeli leadership. And it's completely turned the world, it has completely removed the moral standing or the moral understanding which Israel had after the Holocaust. It has completely removed that from the equation now. And now the only thing that keeps Israel standing is its inherent strength of power and its support from the United States, which allows it to maintain this muscular policy. But going forward, this really pretty much embeds Hamas as the enemy of Israel going. And what you're going to see is further militancy. And because you're not seeing any change or threat to Hamas structure whatsoever. I remember I'm a big admirer of a small nation that doesn't exist anymore called Prussia. It was a small and mighty nation, and Prussia eventually grew out into an empire, which is modern day Germany. And I saw a meme one time where a little boy is in a classroom and it says point to Russia, he points to Russia. It says point to China and he points to China. And then he says points to Prussia and he touches his heart. And this is what Palestine has become. It is, even though it's not on a map, for the believers in this nation, it is in its heart. And then that is the strongest national bond. Remember, the belief in Israel existed far longer than the actual borders of Israel existed. It is the concept and ideology of a nation which keeps it alive. As long as people believe in this nation, the nation will have a future. And what Israel has done in Gaza has done nothing but solidify and cement the Palestinian nation into the hearts and minds of the Palestinian people. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Please comment below, like, share, subscribe if you enjoy the content. Until next time, take care. Bantu up.